Alright, hello there chat, and welcome to an update stream on the OpenVic project. It was never called OpenVic 2, it has always been OpenVic. The Mandela effect is fully in operation, and we will be gaslighting everyone that it was never called. I'm joking. Right, hello everyone, welcome to the chat. We've got a big update today, so before I introduce the team who are with me on this discussion stream, join the community server. The link is in the description down there somewhere. Give this stream a like, and give me a sec while I get my other music, background music on. So we can boot the music bot out of the voice channel before I show it, because we don't want anyone seeing what profile pic this thing has. Right, let me just boot it out. Welcome everyone. My background music has a round of applause at the right time. I'm trying to disconnect it. There's so much to do here. Right, boom, okay. And I'll be introducing the team in a second, I promise. I just need to get these off the screen. Okay, here we are. Welcome, who's going to go first? Brick Pie, welcome, hello.
Hello everyone. I'm Brick Pie. I've been working on the website and stuff. Oh, sorry, Spud. I'm right now in the middle of a road trip, so I can't see your guys' questions. But if you guys have any questions about the website, let somebody know in the chat.
Yeah, we will have a questions and answer section towards the end of the stream. Questions will be noted. Super chat questions will be prioritized. Okay, so the super chats, that is for supporting this channel, Spudgun Official, and me. So do not think that you're donating to the project. The project doesn't take any itself. But, you know, streaming is my job and all that, and it's very separate. The questions will come. And Brick Pie is actually driving as we speak, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm mid-road trip, but straight roads from here, guys.
What better way to have a road trip than join a discussion stream about the project that you've made a website for? So, right, Hop, you're back again. Hello.
Yes, hello. Not too much to update from my end this time, but I'm sure I have some interesting stuff to talk about with Joe about requirements, and also some updates on the compatibility mode.
Yeah, Hop is one of the lead devs. He's just putting in so much great work. You know, absolutely fantastic to have him, and he's been on many of the discussion streams before. He had a lot to talk about for the last video we did, as well as the last discussion stream that we did regarding his excellent work on OpenVic's map. And even now, not too long after the last video and the last stream, he's done even more stuff with compatibility mode that we'll talk about. And we're also joined by Joe.
Hi, ladies and gents. Been a while since I've been on a stream, so I go by the online name Joe the Pro 36, but just call me Joe. I do requirements for the project and basically oversee project management and all that. In effect, you know, I guess I inject a lot of my industry experience into the project and make sure it's being run properly, and I guess that it all fits together. And I do a bit here and there. Recently done some testing work. We're going to begin some testing soon, and I mostly do requirements and oversee that. So yeah, I'll get into more on that in detail later on. I'll talk about exactly how the project sort of functions a bit in those areas. But yeah, good to be here. Good to be back on stream as well.
Yeah, absolutely great to have you back as well. We had you on the first discussion stream, maybe even the second, just the first actually. And but just before we do that, I'm going to actually turn off the alert sounds that I think are still here from my super chats. I'm going to turn that off. So someone else do some general introductory discussion. Okay, I need to turn this off. Hold on.
Thank you for putting this project together.
Yeah, so at the moment we've just come to the end of Dev Cycle 2. So I firstly brought, I guess to explain what Dev Cycles are, we write a load of requirements, we take the requirements that are ready, put them into a list to be implemented, and that's a Dev Cycle. So we've recently come to the end of Dev Cycle 2, which was focusing on the map and really kind of getting the beginnings of the back ends together. Now we are currently in between dev cycles, which doesn't mean work is completely finished or completely paused on programming, but we're mostly working on requirements, on fleshing out what we're going to work on in dev cycle 3. The current plans for dev cycle 3 are nations, ops, factories, that kind of stuff. Just the data back end of it, though. No simulation yet, or no particularly complex simulation. We are also having lots of meetings about the economy, though, and how it should work. We've got some consultants in, such as Nurse Reno, who will soon be helping us with economy stuff.
Oh yes, Reno's here. I'm back, by the way. That's one of the things. We got some great people to advise us on the economy of the game. So, I'm sorry for making you do some random introductory stuff, but I had to turn off some sound effects. Someone in the chat complains about the size of the YouTube chat. Listen, I'm not playing a game. We're just doing discussion, so why not have the chat there? Anyway. So after our intro there, we move to our first topic, and whoever's taking the timestamps, hope you take a timestamp. The first topic is, of course, the biggest news, and yeah, I wasn't able to do a full video about this news, even though it's possibly the biggest news you might have on the project itself, because I did one recently and I'm focusing on editing other stuff. So we announced it on the community server, and now we're doing this discussion stream to really talk about it and announce it properly and tell everyone why things have happened and go over the history of where all this has come from. And that is, OpenVic has the official blessing, or, you know, Paradox allowing it to happen officially. So, who wants to talk about that one and introduce what's happened?
I mean, yeah, Joe should probably, yeah.
Since we dealt with the various dramas and people complaining and thinking they were lawyers from the start, I guess place to start would probably be saying that, you know, first month or so it was just constant uncertainty about if the project could go ahead, and tons of people thinking that they knew what the law was. We had a lot of arguments over that, but we figured out pretty quickly that generally an open source project would be okay. And we still had arguments over that because, you know, there's still that sort of almost like that Leviathan in the distance that is Paradox coming in and suing us.
Did you mean that? Did you mean that pun there?
Maybe a little, but
okay.
But yeah, in real terms, we were always a bit worried about Paradox. I mean, I was always on the fence because I just cannot afford like legal repercussions in life in general. You know, I've got a real job, I can't afford things like that, so I was always a bit paranoid. We came to this, we had some big argument in our team about this, and it was basically the difference between whether we create our own assets and I use our own name and all that, or if we actually use the Paradox stuff from Victoria 2, we just basically port that into a new bit of software and run all the old assets. The compromise we ended up coming to was we'll build all our own assets. We'll do everything originally, absolutely everything, which means that we are completely in the clear legally. So even if it didn't matter, I think at that point we had gone down a route that Paradox would not be able to take legal action against us because we were making everything ourselves completely. And if we're not using any of their assets, then we're also not making any money. So what legal recourse would they have apart from we are making a game that's similar to theirs, which is not a crime in any way. So I think we were legally in the clear for a while, and we really have been, you know, keep operating with that sort of mindset. But, you know, we've always tried to have a dialogue with Paradox, figure out exactly what their take is on it, and just, you know, be a bit friendly and try and just, you know, see what they thought of it and if they had any major issues. And, you know, in the spirit of good faith and goodwill, we thought we would, you know, effectively just talk to them, see what they wanted, see if they had any issues with what we were doing, and we would reasonably comply with what they wanted. So without going into too much details, we had a team member of ours do a back and forth with Paradox over some DMs. And the conclusion of those DMs was a couple of internal meetings in Paradox to discuss this project. And the result of that was that they were unhappy with only the name. So they thought OpenVic 2 was a little too close, and they asked us nicely, could you just, you know, could you change the name? And we replied effectively, could we just use OpenVic without the 2? Is that fine? And they said yes. So, yeah, they're completely fine with our project existing. We're planning to make our own assets. They don't seem to mind us loading old Vic 2 assets if we need to, but really glad to have had the dialogue with them and effectively official sanction from them. That's not a way of saying that we are endorsed or that they support us or that They want us to succeed in any way. It's just that they are okay with our project existing and they don't have any legal concerns with us. So
yeah,
if you like Paradox games, buy Paradox games. I'm not here to hate on them.
Yeah, just to clarify everything, I mean, I've worded it in a way that, giving us the blessing or giving us, how else have I worded it? It's just that they've given us the blessing. It's not like we're working with them or they're part of it or anything. It's just that they, they're not going to take any, there's no legal issue going on and they're happy with our project existing. So I can also talk about everything Joe just said there about having a constructive, good dialogue with Paradox is absolutely key and important. That's been our intention from the start, to be completely open about what we're doing and having a dialogue with Paradox. And I talked about it in my most recent video. I talked to the person in Paradox that I've talked to before about it, and there seemed to be a little misunderstanding about what was happening. And in general, Paradox obviously might not like me, so it was natural and right that someone else talked to them, and that's what happened eventually. We had that dialogue lately, and then the news came through that we've got the blessing. And
it's also another kick in the teeth for all the Duma Redditors who were saying this project would never pass legal sanction at the start.
Yeah, I mean, on top of what we've just told you, we also have more in-depth stuff that we discuss within the team, of course, that we don't really need to share or get into specific details on about legal stuff. So everything we're saying here is backed up by proper scrutiny and knowledge about all of this. It's not like we're just flailing around being spontaneous and going, oh, we'll just do this, we'll do that, without caring. Everything we say is backed up. And people might assume it's not because they're doomers or whatever, but it is.
Yeah, we're not taking out advice from the 50,000 message legal mega thread on the community server.
Yeah, that thread was fun and a lot of different issues. And I think a lot of things, you play down that thread, but the trademark that Paradox has on Victoria, or Victoria 2 for games, was first mentioned in that early discussion thread way back in January. I mean, we knew about the important issue all the way back in January anyway, which was the trademark.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I'm pretty sure we all believe that we could totally have still used OpenVic 2. There's we're still legally in the clear if we ever used OpenVic 2. It's just Paradox would have preferred if we. There was no legal reason that we changed it. It was simply a gesture of goodwill to Paradox.
Maybe. But even, if it's ever... I don't know.
I mean, we went over this in more internal discussions, but the gist of it is what could Paradox do legally to actually affect this project? Very, very, very little, if anything at all. They really are powerless in this case to affect the project in any way because everything we're making is original. All of our art, all of the data and everything will be original. So you could argue, well, if you're able to load proprietary data, maybe that could be an issue, but they have said they've got no issue with that. So
I also want to point out another thing for the record, and I've pointed out many times, OpenVic, as it's now called, this project is not anti-Paradox. It's not about hating Paradox, and it wasn't designed just to replace Victoria 3 or whatever. Paradox and the issues with Paradox, the issues with Victoria 3, may be a factor as to why this project is, happening. It might be a motivation for people to work on it and a motivation for people to support and want to play it, but it's not the fundamental reason at all. Biggest piece of evidence for that was the fact that various projects had been attempted like this before Victoria 3 was announced, before there was any knowledge of it. So how could it therefore be a driver of the desire to create an OpenVic Victoria-esque project? And I have my own opinions on Paradox and Victoria 3 and stuff, but that is not inherent to the project at all. Everyone on the project has their own personal opinions too, about games, about Victoria, and they're not that important really, because what's important is the project and how it's going to get done, and all working together to make something great. And I might talk about Victoria 3 and stuff and Paradox in my own capacity as a YouTuber separately from OpenVic, and everyone's okay with that. So
yeah, project is made out of a love for Victoria 2 above all else. This is fundamentally what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's positive about Victoria 2, not negative about Victoria 3, fundamentally.
Yeah.
So is that about it for the whole topic here? Because we can go into depth about the name. OpenVic 2 is what it used to be called. I'm not going to go back and retroactively change like the names of my videos when it was called OpenVic 2,
Yeah,
because it was at the time. But now, yeah, the name has been changed on the community Discord server, on the GitHub, the website, everything has gone.
Yep.
All the official things
to
related
the point
to
where
project.
it broke our development branches in Git because we renamed it. So yeah, it didn't take us long to rename everything. We're happy with it. I don't think we're too concerned about it.
You say it didn't take long to rename stuff. I went through the.
Well, I wasn't the one doing it.
Yeah.
I just renamed the repo itself. I was the one who broke it. Yeah.
No, but yeah, it's all good now.
Yeah. I mean, that's it, really. I mean, there's not much more to bring up. I mean, we could go over like the detail of like lawyer talk back and forth, but you know, it's probably better unsaid. I mean, as far as we're concerned, this issue is basically done and dusted.
Yeah, and it's just important to note again, like that's it. We're in the clear. The project will go ahead and be made with no possible legal repercussions. It's in the clear on that. The only thing stopping the project getting done is any issues with the project getting done. That's it. It's all about just pressing forward. These concerns are a thing of the past now.
All right, you want to move on?
Yeah. If people have questions about this topic, we'll return to them in the questions and answers section to get into more detail on any questions people ask. And hopefully the question taker that I've assigned is going to do that great job, which I would appreciate. And now we move on to the second topic, which is the website. Was it the second topic? Yeah, it was, right?
Yeah.
All right.
And this is where we're going to bring in BrickPie. Go ahead.
Yeah, the website. That's yeah. So technically the website is like very simple right now. Yuri is working on a back end, which is just how the website like stores stuff. Like it's how we're gonna do like user accounts, and it's how we're gonna have like more dynamic dev diaries. I believe there's plans for there's quite a few plans for the website going forward, but right now it's just openvic.com. That's it. You can go there and take a look right now. And it just has some basic information about the website, like, for example, stuff that you can do to contribute. And it's got all the dev diaries up there linked. And yeah, it's pretty simple right now, but it's a nice way to just give someone, hey, you interested in this, go check out this website. It's a nice little pointer if someone's not going to join the Discord, if someone's not going to sit through like watching like a video about the project, they can just check out a website. And there's still some things that are definitely being worked on, especially with like the front. I did mention we're going to make the dev diaries a little more dynamic, because right now it's just text, and the FAQs will be getting an improvement sometime. Then on top of that, localization is something that I have on the list at some point. So that will be happening, and we will need your help with that at some point. And that's about everything for the near future on the website. In the far future, I mean, I could see that after release, there could be definitely either a meta server or alternatively a very good mod ecosystem on the website. But that is plans that have not been discussed at all, and there's this in my if also for reference, guys, I'm not a linguist. If I have any grammar mistakes on there, feel free to just call me out in the Discord, and they'll be fixed. We found a good few just looking through that, so feel free to correct me, guys. I'm just here to help build out the website. Yeah, that's my website spiel.
Your website, it's great.
Proofreaders apply now.
Yeah, the stuff you've done here on the website is
translators.
It's fantastic, and so it's fair to say that Yuri, who we've had on previous discussion streams, he's one of the lead people in the project, actually, an admin and all that. He laid the foundations of the website. He did the domain. He got the Google Analytics, set it up, got the dev, just showing dev diaries, and you've taken that and built on it the beginnings of a fully functional website, right?
Yeah. I'd say Yuri definitely laid the foundation. He made it like he built the road, and now I've built a little shack on the side of the road.
It's cute. It's a cute starting out website that has like basic stuff. I mean, I look at it and I'm like, oh, thank Christ they haven't gone like this this templated Web 2.0 format where you have to scroll down for like 5 years to get to anything useful. It's just all buried in these like complicated menus.
Best thing about the website is that it doesn't ask you for cookies when you join
it.
But that'll happen someday, no doubt.
Oh, please no. No, we'll shuffle that one under the carpet. But yeah, it's
cookies. No, we only have cake over here. No cookies.
Maybe it'll ask you for machine parts.
So simple that
Yeah, I saw a comment somewhere the website might be slow. It might be if everyone in the stream starts browsing it now. Yeah, it probably will get slow. This is getting used, right? But yeah, all the dev diaries, everything will be posted on here. I don't know how we feel about getting news on there in general in the future. Maybe we'll see about putting more formal news posts or almost like a blog post format where we would put a regular update out there, maybe in a bit more detail for those who like to read a bit more and want the information like that. But at the moment,
me and Yuri had the idea that eventually we might have individual developers able to just have their own little blogs on what they're doing for the project for people to just follow. It'll work well with the news. We have a few designs for a news page. That'll be one of the first to get reworked along with the FAQs.
You could probably have like a blogs page, and then like everyone has you can post like a blog on there. So you have like a named blog, and it's just a list of people's named blogs, like rendering after the next one. Most recent at the top, if you get my meaning. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's future ideas. You guys got any good ideas? By all means, ping us. Would advise like putting any suggestions on the community Discord, for instance, if you've genuinely got any information that you think would be useful to put on the site, any useful suggestions about what to do for the site, or if God forbid you are a web developer and would like to help work on the website, by all means, volunteer. This is a passion project. If your heart's there and you like to write web dev codes, by all means, volunteer.
Yeah, for the web devs out there, we're using a framework Svelta and SvelteKit, which is it's pretty similar to vanilla HTML and JS, but it is reactive and it has a component framework. For those of you who know what that means, not all of you are web devs. Kind of like React, but it's a lot less bloated.
I think when you said when you said the name of the thing you're using, you sort of cut out initially. Can you just say what you're using for the website again at the start there?
Svelta. Svelte. SVELTE.
Svelte. It's probably me not knowing what it is rather than it being inaudible, but we just might as well clarify.
Web frameworks are a dime a dozen, and everyone has to have a cool name. Otherwise, you're not a real web framework. But so guys, do not be afraid to just ping me. I want to get pinged. If you guys have any ideas for the website, see anything should be changed, or if you're a web dev and you want to help out, just ping me.
You're gonna regret that.
I am gonna regret that, but
you might get someone useful through all the many requests for something really, really tiny. But
man just asked for pings on a Discord with 5,000 people.
Yeah.
But yeah, this stuff is great. So a few little suggestions in the chat about a forum. Forums obviously have been a traditional great thing that people have on websites and for projects, but nowadays Discord sort of takes over what that is.
I miss the forum days, man. I grew up in the 2000s and such. And,
yeah.
I remember I was a teenager, sort of like 2000s, and yeah, we were on a forum once. You remember that, Spudgun?
Yeah, don't get into specifics, but yeah, we were.
We had some interesting debates and things back in the day. I miss forums. I think they're a little better than Discord, but it's hard to see how a forum would get any use compared to the Discord, to be honest.
Yeah,
and that's a big shame. It's just Discord's so informal and it's almost got its own culture, whereas like an actual website forum is like a very different form. The nature of discussion is different there.
It can become quite self-selecting, kind of like a Paradox forum.
Maybe
at the same time,
the more you make me think about it.
It's useful to just have a Discord instead of a forum, because we can kind of hide behind Discord, and we have to make less moderation decisions than if it's a forum, and we have to not spread our moderation out over a forum and a Discord. And with the forum, it's just a whole nother dynamic. When we just have a Discord that we can use for the same end, the forum is probably not something that's going to be implemented ever.
For a similar reason, we haven't yet set up a GitHub discussions page. Even though people have asked us about that and we've looked into it, but at the same time, we have the Discord, and we it's more effort from us to have to moderate more things.
Just another avenue that may not even get used in the first place, you know?
Yeah.
It's like all 5 of you in the
You don't
chat.
wanna break up
Like, no, I want a forum. But sorry. Maybe if the project
we don't want to break up internet on multiple places.
Yeah, maybe we'll
Not
get a
our
sub
job.
forum on the Paradox forum. Joking.
Maybe.
Nah, you already banned me.
I was only banned for 3 days when I announced that thing when I got banned. I'm on there. I still see people liking and disliking my posts from the big thread about their fake news graph for Victoria 3 player count. Still to this day, people look at that and seethe about my comments or like them and agree with them to this day. And I'm already over that shit. That was ages ago.
How many years until we post our own fake news graph showing how many people are playing OpenVic?
We'll have to have fallen a lot.
Juking the stats, yeah. Anyway.
Or we could just be honest about them all the time for the honesty's own sake. Anyway.
We'll get to that.
So yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff on the website from BrickPie on Yuri's Foundation. I think that's about it for the website. Probably got a few questions on it that we'll come back to in the Q&A section. There was a little brief thing that we forgot to mention in the introduction about a different project. Some news about a different project that only sort of confirms one of the things that we've chosen for this
I was going to get onto this in the next topic, so should I just get on that?
You can just mention that now in the next topic or before it, whatever you might want to say.
I might as well mention it now since you brought it up. So basically, there's a project that's been around called Grey Eminence, and this is to design effectively a competitor to Paradox in making a grand strategy games. And it's a fully commercial game, so they're looking to actually sell a game. And it looks, from what I've seen of the screenshots, videos, etc., to be honest, it looked pretty impressive. It looked quite ambitious, almost a little too ambitious, if I'm really honest, but it looked pretty good. They recently had some news that they've run out of capital to develop the game for a short period of time, and what they're going to do is try and accumulate a bit more capital and finish the game, which is pretty reasonable, to be honest. So what we want to say on that really is that, like, we are not going to accept money in this project, like, at all. And so because this project is a passion project, and it's all from, our free time. Like, I've done 9.5, 10-hour day in work, and then practically straight on the stream after that. I mean, I've got maybe an hour or two to spend on this project today. It's the kind of thing that, like, and if you hear him, you can hear my newborn little boy in the background who I'm trying to watch. So we're busy people, and yeah, we've got to do this in our spare time. We're not taking any money, and a downside to that is it's going to take a while. Like, this project is not run by full-time people at all. This is run by people who have busy lives and are putting in a few hours here and there. Maybe a few hours in the week, and maybe a little more on the weekend when they've got some time. And this is all around all of our responsibilities that we get on with. So what I would say is we are in no danger. Thanks, Jeds. We're in no danger of this project being shut down or failing or having issues with money, right? So yeah, it's going to continue on. It's going to get delivered. What time is it going to get delivered is something I'm always asked. I've always said something like 2 years ahead in the future, probably longer. I would probably lean to longer than shorter. It's how it goes. And really, I wanted to take sort of this theme and seg into a general description of how the project is going. So a sort of like top-down view of what things are going on. And I guess the gist of it is that our overall progress is quite slow, quite steady. We have occasional breakthroughs, like Cuba or Hop rather, going through and doing a lot of the mapping stuff and presenting some beautiful map work, which is like a great technical achievement and a great striding forward. And I keep seeing these comments in the chat. Yes, we have money. Yeah, the thing is, if you're a professional engineer, yeah, you make bank. It's just part and parcel of it. Stay in school, kids, and earn money.
Some of the people on the project are still students and stuff, though, as well.
That's true, but those are super professional engineers.
Not soon to be software engineers.
Yeah. So yeah, main thing I would say is we have these breakthroughs, but the majority of the project is a very slow burn, a very long-term slow burn. Like here's an example. I spent most of my weekend when I was working on the project, working on requirements to get all the inventions in the game, and I basically just spent probably like 12 hours or so just getting the inventions down and having it all like carefully sort of noted, and that's just the requirement side. Good side is it's permanently there, and we'll be able to change it, and we'll be able to fluidly adapt our requirements and therefore how we handle them in the long term. But it's like a small part of the game, and it takes a long time to work on, let alone the actual development of it as well. So
you've also been doing excellent work with testing too.
Oh yeah, so I wrote like scripting to automatically generate a lot of the test scripts. So we have a system of requirements, and a constant concern by, I guess, people who are less professionally geared, people who don't actually work in the profession so much. A lot of people who work in software but don't necessarily work on big projects have raised issues with the bureaucratic level of requirements work. The only thing is that when you actually combine every phase of the project together, the requirements makes it kind of easy. So like if we write requirements, then we can generate test scripts based on those requirements. And so our test work is automatically generated, and then it's fully traced from requirements to development to the test scripts. So what I did recently is effectively build a Python data extractor for our requirement sheets, and then I built a Google Sheets set of scripts that would then take that data and then like render it into unique almost like Excel style sheets that would be like test scripts. And then the only thing left is to like give some actions to the tester, and then that would give you a fully fledged test script, and the results will automatically calculate and result based on what the tester does. So you can take that data and then
look at automatic testing at some point too. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, and the automatic testing is basically we're going to put some like programming hook into the game that will allow us to automatically output data, to display data, or to do what we want. There's another guy in the project working on some way of generating save games based on some kind of like application. I think it was like a GUI application is building up, something like a C# style forms program or something along those lines anyway. And the idea is you can make a custom save game for OpenVic, and then you would be able to run tests based on that save game state, which would be very useful in the long term for testing. I mean, what I want to do more than anything, I don't want to be too much of a downer. I just want to temper expectations. Like, we are not going to have a playable game anytime soon. We are so far removed from that. And the thing is, we understand how long it's going to take. Okay, so we aren't going to promise that we're going to do things and then not deliver. What we'll do is we will promise that it will take a long time, but it will be done properly. And so, downside is, you probably have to wait a while till you get your playable alpha or your beta. Upside is it will happen. It will happen. And it will be a decent quality product as well. The fact that we're taking our time with it means that we can do it properly, means we can get rid of bugs. It means we're not going to make amateur mistakes. Like there was a similar game in this genre where if you selected a nation on the screen, your game would just instantly hard crash the desktop. And we're obviously going to avoid problems like that. We're not going to have silly mistakes like that in our product. So just how it goes. So yeah, at the moment looking at getting requirements ready for test cycle 3, or dev cycle 3, sorry, and then beginning a test cycle as well that's going to test all the requirements we built off the last dev cycle. So effectively all the dev cycle 2 requirements that have been completed are going to be tested in dev cycle 3. While dev cycle 3 is ongoing, they're going to develop functionality that we're working on the requirements for now. So I hate having to reiterate this, but effectively software development is a process of getting your requirements together, building a design based on your requirements that helps you establish your code and writing your code. Then you test your code, and then you deploy your code. And it's effectively a cycle like that over and over again. And pretty much every project runs like that to some capacity, even if the nature of what requirements look like, what the code looks like, what the testing looks like may differ substantially. Depends on the scale of the project, how professional it is, and what the actual needs of the project are. In our case, it's just most of our documentation, our structure, our recording of data and how we manage it is done through spreadsheets. You can see a spreadsheet in my profile picture. That is a copy of the OpenVic requirements. One of the tabs on it. We've got like 20 tables on there, and we've got, I think at the moment we've got something like 4,000 requirements. It'll be closer to 5K, maybe 6K by the end of the week or two from now, before we start Dev Cycle 3. Because the inventions I worked on just over the weekend, I mean, it's like an extra 400 requirements. And then there'll be another 50 off the tech at least. So, yeah, a lot of this may not be familiar to you. If you don't work in software requirements can be a bit ephemeral. And when I'm not even talking about code and you don't even understand the code side, so like what the hell are software requirements? Well,
and here's the thing. If you're, say you're following the development of another game, no other game developers talk about requirements and stuff when they're developing a game.
I never get that. It's so bizarre because, like, if you work in industry, it's like if you are battered over the head with requirements in some form, and that depends on the project. If you're working on a quite fast-moving, fluid project, where you're working in a commercial language, typically like C# with .NET or Java, you will typically do an agile approach in which you do something like user stories, or you use like Scrum to organize your work. And so what you'll have is some vague ask for the user will be able to do this thing, but that will act as your requirement to which you work. So it's like, I don't know, the user will be able to log into a system, and therefore a developer will take that and build a login system off it. Like that's a requirement, and then someone's building up a system based off that. How much design you put in the meantime, up to you. But that's a fluid example of it. In more structured, rigid projects, which I've worked on, that's where I get a lot of my experience from. It's like aerospace kind of stuff where it's very tightly controlled. You have thousands of requirements that are carefully interlinked and reviewed that pour into designs, and then those designs automatically generate code. And then the developer doesn't do much coding in terms of architecture because the architecture is already done. The developers just write the method bodies. So if that's not familiar to you, a method body is like the smallest piece of code you have is like a function or a method, which is just like a couple of lines that does like one thing. But that's what you do in some of the bigger projects. You just write a couple of method bodies. You do like a specific low-level bit of programming to do like one thing. But that's enough waffle from me.
Let's quickly talk a bit about what we're planning on including in Dev Cycle 3. So we're still writing the requirements for this, but broadly, we want pops and nations to have all of the data, like not necessarily simulating it yet, but the static data that's loaded at the start of the game to define all of these things. That's what we want to define in requirements and then implement so that we can start sort of fleshing out all of the base bits. Or once we've fleshed out the base bits, like we've already done the map and provinces, but yeah, as I said, nations and pops, we can then start adding on the simulation. We can then start adding on things like decisions and events and modifiers. So yeah, it's a bit strenuous sitting there, sort of going through defining requirements for everything, but it makes it a lot easier to implement stuff afterwards and to coordinate implementation between people when you already have a firm idea of what you want to do. And it's
it also gives you time to figure out exactly how to do these things. So we are a bunch effectively of strangers who've come together to build a project, and establishing how we work together and how we actually build and deliver the software is something we've got to work out. So I've always said since the start of the project, it's going to take us 3 development cycles before we even get going. Before we even actually get the ball rolling, it's going to be 3 development cycles. We've done 2, and we're coming to a 3rd. In the 3rd, we're going to have testing, and lo and behold, we'll have tests and we'll have requirements work, we'll have development there, which should effectively round out how we deliver the software. But one thing I want to comment on specifically there with like simulation and network requirements, like we have barely even looked at simulation and network stuff. We've talked a lot about it. We have an understanding of what we need to do. But we haven't done requirements for it yet. And one of the main reasons, as Hop has illuminated, is that. Yeah, I know. It's just I say Hubert, and then as I say that, I see your name on screen. I'm like, feel confused, tripping over myself. But what we need to do before we can put the simulation together in real terms is have the entire sort of base game mechanics sort of assembled. We need to have the requirements and the code side for it there, because if we don't, we're basically leaving big gaps that we need to plug in later. and it makes more sense to have these basic things done first. Unfortunately, these basic things do take a lot of time to implement. I said before, it's taken me like a dozen hours just to put some invention text together.
But one other thing
all
which is
takes time.
Also just to say that setting up, let's say, the pop data that gets loaded at the beginning of the game. Let's say we're not yet doing anything of like conversion or assimilation. We're just loading the pop data at the beginning and being able to look at that data. In order to have multiplayer work and to have to avoid out of syncs, everything which the game can be looking at or everything the game does has to be deterministic. So it's long story short, what we are doing right now is not just creating a sort of an array with all the information in it. We are designing the systems so that then when we add the simulation on top of it, it will work well as expected, and it will ideally work in multiplayer.
Yeah.
And the conclusion we'll keep coming back to is it's going to take time to build these systems. I mean, one thing that I know is going to happen, and you get this from experience in software, is we'll say it's going to be like 2 years, and at about 2 years we'll have something like an alpha or a beta, and then we'll spend the next year or two literally just fixing what we already have, just bug fixing and tweaking and changing and just getting it just right and ironing out all the problems. Because you got to be completely naive fool to think you'll write software and it'll be perfect first time and you'll never rewrite it. It's like, it doesn't matter how good a programmer you are, you'll end up writing like 20 lines of code and you'll have one or two things wrong with it. It is a very rare time in which you can spend a day writing programming and you haven't introduced new bugs. And if anyone says, "Oh, I do that all the time," yeah, you're full of shit. Don't believe you.
Yeah, so we just talked about how the networking hasn't even really come into effect at all yet, naturally, because of the early stage of the project. Our networking guy is sitting on standby. We haven't called him to arms yet. He's waiting there to do his part when the time comes, right?
Yeah, we got mobilized to take part.
He's waiting to just deterministically lockstep all over the project.
On the subject, we have difficulty getting work done on the project because there's only so many people who are actually willing to do a lot of the boring grunt work. The thing with a project like this is people are attracted to the flashy idea of having a completed game because everyone wants to play a version of OpenVic that's fully done, right? We all want to be at that state. To get there, though, requires a tremendous amount of quite boring and tedious grunt work. It's just a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of organization, a lot of time talking with others and working with others on how to get this project assembled and together. We've had probably as much discussion as we have actually spent working on the actual game stuff as well. Because if you can't just work on stuff, you've got to agree on what everyone's working on together. So if there's anyone out there who wants to just do boring grunt work for the project to help it get done, I mean, you're welcome to come aboard. But yeah, there's not many people who are willing to do that, and that's, I think, where the passion for it really has to come through. And those of us who are working on it, genuinely willing to do all this just for the love of the project and the love of, I guess, Vic 2 in some senses.
Yeah, first of all of the same processes about coming to contribute to the project still apply. You can write in the application form and all that. You can find the easy links on the website and join the community Discord server, or just come into the community Discord server, type in the general chat, "Hey, I want to contribute, can I get some help on how to do that?" And a team member will just come along and guide you. It's all very simple.
Do you need coding experience to do that grunt work? No, you do not. You just need to be logically minded. If you have a good mind for logic, I can make you into someone who can do good work for the project, as long as you're willing to contribute. You don't necessarily need to be a programmer, but it would help. The requirements work that I do, for the most part, doesn't need you to be a programmer. You do not need to be a programmer to do that. Tests in the game, don't need to be a program to do that. And do not jump at testing thinking it is play testing the game. It is running through a test script going, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? Over and over again. That's how testing works. But yes, I need people to do testing and requirements work, especially requirements. Requirements is going to be probably the major achievement of the first year of the project. After that, I'll probably start doing dev work because requirements will be largely done in more in a maintenance mode. But we'll get to that point.
QA is not
Sorry,
a glorified. Go on,
yeah.
it's not
QA
a glorified
is...
gamer. Is that why people get into it and then
Oh
suddenly
man,
Paradox
the amount
doesn't
of people
have
who
one?
think that like testing in software is like playing around with a product. It's just not. It's like so soul crushing. It's like if you're play testing a video game, first of all, you are paid virtually nothing. You are treated terribly because you are a dime a dozen, literally a dime a dozen. Most people do it for free. But you will also be playing the same section of the game literally 200 times to try and figure out if there's a problem with it. Or if you have a bug, you'll be trying to reproduce the most painful bug possible. Testing is, I mean, I did tons of testing today, and it was basically just replaying a scenario I'd created, watching what happens, and then trying to figure out what was wrong, and then going, oh no, I have to debug this, and then pausing the program at the right point in a really awkward and arcane way just to figure out that this number isn't the right number. It's a 1 instead of a 0. I better fix my code to make that work. It's that kind of thing, quite literally. I had a bool that was not in the right position kind of thing, you know? Yeah.
If you're
there's a
having
great
fun while testing, you're probably
description of,
looking at the wrong part of the game.
Yeah. I mean, testing can be interesting if you like doing a bit of detective work. If you like rooting around the game to figure out how it functions, and if you like breaking stuff, testing can be ideal for you because a good tester will show and tell a developer how to break their game and all the problems that are in it. That's really what a tester does fundamentally.
Yeah, you know, like there's this good description of testing. I mean, you get a door. 99% of players are going to go through a door. Your tester has to crouch and go through the door. They have to jump through the door. They have to jump over the door. They have to try and walk around the door. They have to attack the door. They have to you have to do absolutely everything to find any random edge cases that are going to break the game. Because especially in a game of this complexity, everything could break something else.
Yep.
And
which is why we've got pages of requirements, and every requirement is going to be tested individually. It's an onerous, labor-intensive process, but it results in something that works properly.
Yeah, I mean, even with this whole process, it's going to be 2-3 years down the line, there's going to be massive that need fixing. There's going to be huge things. It's why didn't we see this 2 years ago? There's going to be massive things that will get fixed. And I mean, that's the point of the beta, and that's not going to be for 2, 3, 4 years, but there's still going to be a lot of bugs to fix, even doing it properly.
Yeah, we need to get a bug tracker together. That's one thing I haven't done with the testing and stuff yet. We need to formalize that. I'll probably start with the Google Sheets to start with. This is the archaic method we operate with. Is the free services online are basically like Google Documents. It's a very convenient free
GitHub
service.
issues too. GitHub issues is good bug practices. It's all integrated.
What I would give for having Jira available.
I'd love to
have Jira. Yeah. I'm a shill for Jira.
What, I mean, is that a paid service?
It's a paid service. It's quite expensive, but it's really
it's a very enterprise.
Good user interface. I worked as a sysadmin using Jira tools in a aerospace organization for a year or so on this massive system.
A sysadmin?
Yes,
sysadmin.
Fuck off. Yes, I had full admin control and permissions on there, so I would build projects and how they work and interlink, and I'd build all the workflows and then the transition states, and then all the post function actions that would allow very complex things to happen programmatically, and then I'd do Groovy scripting. It's a language called Groovy. I don't know how you did it. It worked. There's also some Java under the hood stuff as well, and you basically use this combination of tools to make things. How to describe this in simple terms? It's like a way of taking a task, a single thing you have to do, and then having it tracked through a set of stages. So you can create a process for doing work that has stages do the work, have it reviewed, have it approved by management or whatever, mark it as done, or have a testing stage, and you can have these interlinking locking trees. And then you can transition states between each different state, like a state machine in a sense. And then as it transitions state, you can output data automatically. It can change data on the forms. this is all kind of boring, kind of nerd shit. If you're thinking that, you're probably right. But what it does is it allows you to manage tasks really easily to the point where you can track bugs very easily on a big system. Ideally, that's what I'd like to use. If I could use Jira, this project would be a lot easier to manage over the longer term. As it stands, we're probably going to use spreadsheets, which are a good alternative, though we have to do the scripting and such for spreadsheets ourselves, which isn't too bad, to be honest. Since we're professionals, we can just write scripts to do what we want. Yes, the Excel graphic man. One time,
the sysadmin doing transitive graphs and stuff.
One time, I built a map for D&D in Excel. Spudgun, you were in that game. Remember that?
Back in the day, yeah.
Back in the day, Draken Island.
The only D&D I've ever been in under this man right here.
That's quite good, actually, because that was a good campaign.
It was great fun.
Yeah.
Someone once made XCOM in Excel.
I bet they did, yeah.
So there's one thing I want to talk about in this general update on the project section. Well, there's one thing I want to talk about, and then there's another little topic we have about compatibility mode. So first of all, we just talked about how the project is requiring grunt work and everyone's doing it in their free time. We just have to take another moment to thank the team and show our gratitude towards them for taking their time to be on this stream specifically, as well as all the other great work that they do. Organizational work, the coding work, the website making work, everything that goes into it. They're legends and we thank them all. Yeah. And the artists, don't forget the artists.
Christ, we haven't even mentioned the artists. This is what happens when we don't have artists on the stream.
Bleeding heart artists. No,
Bleeding heart artists out there who have so generously donated a lot of their time and effort to make assets. They are probably one of the best examples of how the project is actually working and doing well to produce and ship product, as it were. While the coding stuff takes time and is quite slow going, the artists have actually produced assets. So we've got like a load of our RGO goods are done. Some of our UI panels were done by the Skeleton Appears. I noticed he posted them today.
Yeah, just as an example, the Skeleton Appears was literally just posting icons for transporting troops. You know, the ones where you put your troops onto transports. He just made them today.
And that's the example of stuff that just goes on in the background. The artists have been continuously putting that work the whole time. And I think the nature of the artist stuff is pretty nice in that they can actually produce assets that could be our final assets pretty much from day one. So yeah, kudos to the artists. They've been doing a stellar job. I mean, music you hear at the start of this stream, I mean, it's Callus's original production for one of the pieces of music for the game. So, you know, he's produced a couple of tracks for the game, and that's very much appreciated by myself and the rest of the team. So, yeah, lots done on the artistic, creative front.
Every time when I'm testing and I have to keep on opening the game, every time I get blasted by the crown.
So the Victoria 2 music cliche, the loading menu is already kicking in for OpenVic. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, we need to set the volume slider to like 130 the first time you start the game.
There's a joke, explode eardrums or something like that, tick box somewhere.
Yeah, explode eardrums at
we could actually do something.
Right.
And then we're missing the perfect CGI, the world coming out of the we got to work on this like CGI at the start.
We'll just get one of the artists.
My job as a loading screen guy, honestly.
Yeah, we had someone build out the logo for the previously named version of the project, if you'll recall.
Oh yeah, the animated Discord.
Animated, yeah, that was cool. I really liked that. That was very cute. If you're out there, thank you. That was actually really cute. I enjoyed that logo.
Yeah, if you're out there and you're still willing to do it with the new one, please do.
Yeah, please.
It's over. We had
working on the loading screen, and that's something that would be cool.
The project's over. We lost our animated Discord server logo because we had to remove the two. Which basically just have to give up at this point. Now, there was one specific bit, some imagery, some flashy stuff that I can finally put on the screen. We have, again, with Hop and the map-related stuff with compatibility mode. So just explain what you've been up to on that.
So there were previously some examples in Spud's video of compatibility mode with the Grand Combination, but that was me like manually editing the files to be compatible with our stuff, and then putting them into the existing engine. Since then, I've written a whole all the code required to automatically load straight from the Vic2 base format a map, provinces, not yet states and stuff like that, but that's soon to come. So yeah, I mean, at this point, I posted a couple pictures showing the vanilla map, showing various mods like DoD, Cold War Enhanced, or the CW. I'm not actually sure what the E stands for. But yeah, so now anybody who downloads the Vic2 and builds it, or even downloads the executable from the releases, if you run it with the argument something like compatibility mode, you'll should be able to find it in the code somewhere. But yeah, if you run the program and give it a path as a compatibility mode path, it will look there for a Vic2 map folder, a Vic2 provinces.bmp, a Vic2 terrain.bmp, a Vic2 definitions.csv, and I mean, the image Spud has up there now shows the province map mode, but also, or province colors, but also there's actually, we completely support loading Vic2 terrain as like the cosmetic terrain as Vic2 does. We draw it, we mix it correctly, and I don't know if there was another picture you had, Spud, of the terrain map.
Put that up now, yep.
Oh, my thing's delayed. But yeah, so the hardest part was actually getting all the terrain stuff working, because if anybody who's tried to automate that before loading Vic2 terrain types, or the terrain.bmp image knows that it's encoded in a very weird way, and you have to use weird tricks to get the values you want out of it. But yeah, so that's the main map update we've had since the end of the last dev cycle. There are various sort of quality of life things that we're thinking about, but the next main focus, as I said earlier, is pops and nations and stuff like that. There'll be interface to be able to look at them, but for now, most of them will just be static data loaded at runtime or at the beginning of the game. The exact distance or how developed the UI for looking at pops will get will depend largely on the requirements we write for it. Yuri has already put a lot of effort into the population panels, the big population menu. So we would be hopeful, hopefully could get something where we can get this accurate breakdown of pops by like culture, religion, political preferences, job, everything. So yeah, that's what we hope to do in this coming dev cycle.
I would say one thing as well on that. There is definitely a strand of thought about quality of life stuff in there, about how to present data and show it to the user. Partly in the sense of potentially having an option for additional UI or different UI, while also retaining the original sort of standard, but also in the sense of having new ways to display and sort and interact with data. Fundamentally, if you have a ledger mode, for instance, where you have this big list of data, it's very easy programmatically to sort and process that data in novel ways that would be easy to show to the user. So it may be the case that because those would be quite easy wins for programmers, we may get some quality of life stuff for how I guess you could see and assess what's going on with your nation. That's a bit better than say Vic2 or even Vic3 does it. Didn't mean to interrupt you, by the way, Brick. So
you just made him crash. Oh right, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, sorry, I was just dodging merge. Sorry. So earlier this July, I'm also planning to, during this dev cycle, take a look at a lot of pounding out a actual scripting language for mods. So this is going to require, like, we have a lot of modders that are in the server already, and it's obviously going to be in consultation with them. It's going to be in consultation with a lot of the dev team. But I think also, stay tuned for this, guys. This is a bit in the future. But if any of you are at all interested in ever like making a type of mod, we're going to need like just non-programmers to take a look and say, like, is this script kind of like clean? Is it like, does it look easy enough to use? Because those are the kind of things that when we're going out and developing our own modding syntax, we're going to be looking. We're going to be making it as easy to use as possible while still keeping it extremely powerful. And I'm hoping to work on that later this cycle.
And the main thing which is so part of the modding system will be sort of like basic data entry. But the thing which we really want to focus on is things like conditions and effects and triggers and stuff like that. So, for instance, the condition under which you can take a decision, or the effect of that decision. So, we are obviously, because we have compatibility mode, we're going to have a minimum standard of what Vic 2 can do, but we fully intend to greatly develop that and move into having sort of more intuitive stuff. I mean, in Vic 2 at the moment, if you want to do two conditions together, ANDed together, you have to write and equals, and then in curly parentheses, you have to put the other conditions. It's very messy.
And even things like the and a lot of the paradox, and they're not exactly they're never
So we lost you
as
after the word
direct as you'd hope. What?
We lost you after the word and.
Oh, sorry. The and in Paradox's script is not anywhere as direct as you'd think it would be. For whatever reason, like all of them have caveats. Like I'm pretty sure with and it's like, or especially with not, it doesn't check it in the way you'd think it would check it. It's never as complete. Like not is a and, not a nor, and it's having more of those operators would be good for this edge cases of people checking different things and having it be more.
Yeah, but also having an easier syntax to write them in
instead
of taking up so much space with an and equals parentheses thing.
Yeah,
and having potentially a couple of ways to do the same thing, so that a developer may want to write a script in the way that they like, so that you could have a more I guess cleaner programmatic style of writing scripts. You could also have a simpler, more sort of everyman way of writing scripts, if you get my meaning. So like I'm a sucker for the curly braces being in line with each other down the page, that kind of thing for scope. But you may also be able to do like a Python style indentation. It depends on how much I think time and effort that we actually get spent on the syntax. But I think something that Brick I think mentioned is, it'd be useful for people from the community to come in and advise on what they want to see in syntax. So if you are a modder for the sort of Paradox style games, an interest in modding for OpenVic in the future, community service here, and you're welcome to contribute there and give us some advice on what you think should be in the sort of modding script.
One thing.
Yeah, I know. At one point, someone was even suggesting having a special IDE for modding, which could make it a lot easier for people to get into. If we have a programmatic curly brace language, and then have like graphical tools to help people who are very new to modding get into it without pulling up Notepad and yeah.
And that may be one of the tools we develop towards the end of the project, I think, as well, because these features need to be tested, it may become a lot easier to develop tools that do these things just so we can test the game a bit easier. Because it's no fun like writing things out manually, right? It's easier if we have a program that does it. So we may develop some modding tools as the game goes on. But it's easy for us to say these things. It's like easy for us to throw out, yeah, we'll do this, yeah, we'll do that. And it's like literally hundreds of hours into each individual line we're saying here. So being realistic, it's a caveat on everything we're saying. It's a maybe on everything we're saying here. Fundamentally, we will do whatever it takes to get the main game sort of shipped. But that is going to take a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
fundamentally, syntax alone is my summer project. That's like, no joke, it's going to take at least like a week of actual work time to get anywhere close to like a completed syntax, like out with requirements and a good idea of how it's going to look and how it's going to work.
Yeah. Could I quickly say something about the modding system itself? So one thing which we hope to have in our modding system, it's in lots of Paradox games, if you want to change something that's already in a file in the base game, you have to copy that whole file and make the change to it. I would much rather have a system where even, let's say, there's a specific event you want to add an option to, where you could have a new file in the mod that references that existing event and adds an option to it. Stuff like that. We don't want to force people to have sort of copy and paste a massive text file just to change a single line in it.
Yeah, so just as we're talking about these future potential modding stuff, we always do go off and talk about all the great things that we're going to do in the future as well, but as much as we do that, the team is also very much grounded in the active work that's going to be done in Dev Cycle 3. So they're very much aware of that, as well as all these great things that will happen in the future. So what's going to be delivered right now is Dev Cycle 3, I suppose, and then
Test Cycle 1 as well, that goes with that as well. So finally turn those requirements from in test into actually completed. Thank Christ for that.
I think we're about ready to move on to the Q&A here, though. What was that? Sorry, Hop?
Yeah.
Go
I
for
was
it.
just going to say, Dev Cycle 3 implementing, we are coming up to hopefully soon, but first we have to obviously write the actual requirements and get exactly what's in it written down or summarized.
Yeah. Again, wonderful, great update on the project. We've even got a nice flashy compatibility mode. That's the Victoria 2 terrain right there in OpenVic already, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And one thing just to mention. So if people, I mentioned earlier how you can run the executable with a special command to pick a folder to use for compatibility mode. If anybody wants to do that, by the way, feel free to ping me on the community server and I can help you through that. But the other thing to mention is that currently since we don't have our own modding system, we're not even thinking about Vic2's modding system yet. So if you point the compatibility mode at a specific mod, that mod needs to have a map folder, a terrain.bmp, a provinces.bmp, a definition.csv, and then inside the terrain folder, a texture sheet.tga or something like that. So there's basically some things which some mods just copy from base Vic2 and don't provide their own version. You may need to copy those over to the folder of the mods in order for it to work.
Is it safe to say that you've commented stuff like this in the file where it's loaded, so
something
you can check
like
the source
that?
code?
But now I've added a command line option as well to do it. So it's fine. If anyone wants to do this or has any questions, feel free to ping me on the dev server or on the community server.
Gotcha.
Right, I think let's move on to the questions and answers section. So we've one of my great YouTube channel moderators, Warlord here, thank you so much for doing this, has compiled many questions that have been asked throughout the stream. We do have the first one, which was first one being a super chat here. So thank you very much for the super chat here. Imperialist asking, you're not allowed to, this goes back to when we're differentiating the project from anti-paradoxness and all that, and that was, you're not allowed to criticize Victoria 3 anymore. Do we have to call you One Proud Spud Gun? And I get One Proud Bavarian is criticizing Victoria 3, so we can't even say true. That, you know. But thanks. Will you make OpenVic Samsung Smart Fridge compatible? Next question. Go answer that, guys.
In theory,
I think.
So someone also mentioned, would it be a mobile game or could I make it a mobile version? Now, in theory, with Godot, because of the way it builds, in theory, yes, you could. So you could potentially do it if you want. Don't know how you control it, but yeah, potentially, yeah.
We're not going to be doing that.
Yeah, you can do it
if you want
to.
Well, that answers that.
We're not
once again,
with Vic. We're not competing with Vic 3 for the mobile market. Don't worry.
No,
we're also not competing with Samsung fridges.
We're not. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, this is another Godot W, Spartan W. Godot allows us to work on fridges. Anyway, I think a very basic question here, will OpenVic be open to modding? Yes, we've got that many different explanations of that.
Yeah, both normal modding, sort of similar to, so it'll both support Vic 2 mods. It will have its own custom format, similar to Vic 2 mods, but better. And then also, if you can't change something with that modding format, you can always just download the source code, make a change in the C++, and then compile that. So the only limit is basically your ability.
Very easy question, that one. This one here, will you be entitled to rip assets out with a check that Victoria 2 is installed, or will you have to only import assets from the installed copy every time? If you know what that means, answer.
Yeah, he's talking about whether you need will you need Victoria 2 to play it or not.
I think he's also asking Godot stuff specifically with importing. We're going to load Vic 2 assets at runtime every time.
The skeleton has literally appeared, by the way.
Yeah.
Damn you! Damn him! Damn that man! Distracting me from
Yeah.
the question.
Yeah. With the assets, I'm pretty sure that we're gonna assume that if you have your copy of Victoria 2 installed, then you have it. Our job is not like we're not doing any like DRM or
Vic
stuff. We're not
2
that. It's an
itself
open source
can't
project.
check. Vic
Yeah,
2
Vic 2
itself
can't
can't
check.
check. It doesn't. Vic 2 doesn't come with any mechanism to test it. So even if we wanted to, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be able to actually check if
the
it's a legit copy
assets
or not.
are
Basically.
pretty much just loose files. So in theory, as long as you had those loose files, you would be able to spoof it in some way. What I would say, obviously, is if you have an interest in Victoria 2 and you play OpenVic, we would strongly encourage you to buy Victoria 2 for Christ's sake. Support Paradox when they do games that you like. For Christ's sake, people.
Yeah, 13 years ago.
That you actually buy Victoria 2. If you don't own it, I would strongly encourage you to, because I would like to see support for Victoria 2 shown to Paradox.
Also, another thing for the record. Yeah, another thing for the record. In all our official documentation and all our statements, we will just be saying, assuming the copy of Victoria 2 you use is owned. We're going to say that. Just, it's a good thing to say.
Well, as I said, Vic
with
2,
all the caveats,
from its own perspective, Paradox didn't make Vic 2 with any mechanism for testing its legitness anyway. So we are, we're doing as much as we can.
Exactly.
You wouldn't download EA.
You wouldn't steal a car.
Rick, where did you get that car you're driving?
What?
Where did you get that car you're driving?
Google.com, boys. Google.com.
He downloaded his car.
Back in Cali.
Next question. Can we get OpenVic for Linux and or Mac? Yes.
Yes. So
all of the above.
One of the main developers, Spartan, who is the biggest Godot advocate as well, he is himself actually an Arch user. So 100%. Like Linux, to be honest, we have better support. We'll probably have better support on Linux than even on Windows, just because of what developers use.
Yeah, I'm a Mac guy. I have a vested interest in making sure this thing runs amazing on Macs, especially the new ARM Macs. So I have one of those, and so
the M1s.
Guys, don't worry about compatibility. It's gonna run great.
Yeah, we will be. Don't know if I can promise the Samsung Smart Fridge, but definitely Mac, Linux, and Windows. Yes.
All of the above includes the Smart Fridge.
Well, the Smart Fridge would probably be running Linux, although it could be Windows, knowing how things are.
Yeah, probably just like a stripped down Android.
It should be on Linux, but yeah. Anyways, next question.
We have one here about sort of future scope of changing some mechanics, perhaps in, this goes to the OpenVic new version. Will you be able to have control of immigration, for example, specifically targeted cultures and stuff?
So that's already, okay. In base Vic 2, immigration is controlled by a list of conditional factors. So if the pop's culture has a core on that province, that's a negative to it. If there's unemployment in the province, it makes the pop want to emigrate away more. Stuff like that. You could, with this, theoretically do custom migration stuff for custom cultures, but in Vic 2, with the modding system, that would be very cumbersome, and you'd basically have to write like a long list of, if it's this culture, do this. If it's this culture, do this for every single culture. In OpenVic 2, this will definitely not be an issue. This will be much easier to do. You will be able to. I fully intend it to be possible to have store variables other than just a flag or something. I intend it to be possible to have a culture that is remembered as, let's say, the culture you would want this province to be assimilating towards.
And our next question from Cock Magician. Do you plan on making a YouTube channel for Dev Diary's gameplay videos in the future? It's called Spudgun Official. Now, I think that the gist of the question is maybe an actual official OpenVic YouTube channel. What do we think of that?
I've never considered that, to be honest, and I don't know who has.
Like
but
a lot of effort.
Yeah, if we have small things we want to put up, we'll put them on the informal showcase thing in the OpenVic 2 community server. If there's something more substantial than that, it's going to go in one of these videos. Well, not even these.
Yeah, we already have a
one
hype
on
man.
this channel.
Now, the interesting thing about this, even though I'm the spud gun here, I actually kind of like the idea. I mean, I'm the experienced one who knows that within OpenVic community here, but maybe a secondary channel that I can run where we just put pure showcase stuff on it, at least initially. And it's nothing to do with me. I'm not going to talk over it. I don't know. Something more neutral. Something just pure. It's something I might look into, or we can look into in the future. But as things stand, things are going fine with the setup we have and the link with my channel and everything. And, we can discuss all of that if anyone has suggestions.
Interestingly, actually, the community server is only about 150 people behind your own server on Discord. So even it is potentially possible that an OpenVic YouTube channel could actually draw more attention even separately.
Yeah, but a whole new YouTube channel raises the different questions of getting a subscriber base, getting on the algorithms, all these things. But I know about that, so maybe I could make it work. But who knows? And
our social media consultants,
community manager.
Community manager catalyst.
We have that. I'm composer. So, what have we got next? Next question. Will holes remain in the economy? For example, interest on loans and construction costs not for the purchase of materials.
So
we were just talking about that the other day.
Yeah. So with the way we want to program the economy, the building blocks of the economy, like a market and stuff like that, we want to make as general as possible to make modding, but even C++ source modding, as easy as possible. And we don't want to build bad stuff into the game unnecessarily. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
I think we do want the economy to be more watertight. We don't want like these.
Yep.
So what I was exactly going to say is we will likely have as the default an economy very similar to Vic 2's, at least because we need that anyway for the compatibility mode. However, we want to make it in such a way that a lot of the holes will be easily fixable, and then it's just a matter of you working out the balance for them. Also, Bike might come on and join us.
I would like to say that, generally speaking, this project will aim to remove any bugs in Vic 2 or in the style of Vic 2. So if you have functionality that is known to be a problem, like we're just going to patch that out, as it were. We're not going to build the game to be deliberately wrong. That's really dumb. So if it comes to the economy and having holes in it, we're probably going to eliminate those holes because it makes the economy worse, right? We're not going to put stuff in that makes it worse. Another example, in the inventions I've been doing recently, I've been noticing some problems with the way that Paradox put some inventions together, where they did things like you have a chance to unlock an invention, and you get a bonus to getting that invention if you have the tech required to have that invention researched. So it's a completely superfluous. You shouldn't have that in there. So I've been removing that from the invention stuff as we've been going. Basically, just removing something that's completely pointless. Yeah, so the base chance is like 2%, and then you get 2% more if you have the tech that gives you the invention to be able to be invented. It's so silly. And there's like little mistakes here and there, but yeah, we're going to try and smooth it out. I mean, we've got a lot more time. This is one of the ironies, is that even though Paradox is like a professional studio that put together Vic in like a year or so with full-time people, they only had a year and really not any time after that. So outside the expansions, I mean, there's only so much they can do.
People too.
And we have a community with eyes that will point out every flaw and mistake we inevitably make as well.
Yeah, the glorious open source process.
Anyway, Bike should be joining us any second now. I don't know if we want to just continue with the Q&A stuff with. Oh, hi, Bike.
Oh, hello.
I didn't know if it was rude to just.
Nah, feel free.
I mean, we are just wrapping up within the Q&A section. I know you've been doing a lot of, the whole
Save
team
game
generally.
stuff.
There's been a lot of great economic discussion about how the economy works, and that's being mapped out for the future. And you've been doing a lot of work on that, haven't you, Bike?
Yeah. Well, tangentially, what I'm working on is documenting the save file structure.
Oh.
Which involves a lot of the pop system as well. So there's actually the Vic2 save file structure is like massive. It's kind of wild how much you can define just in the save file. So for example, the current economic state of the game and past price history is defined within the save file to display on the trade screen and stuff like that, and it has things like the artisans pool, what supplies they need and their current and every pop's current savings, all things like that. So basically, the aim is there to get an idea of how we should model our pop system and economy, and how we can set up basically test cases where I don't know if test case is quite the right word, but what we want to do is basically be able to look at Vic2 in these tailor-made save files where you have, for example, 2 countries only, and let's say they only have artisans, and see, so we can kind of do scientific experiments, really understanding how the economy works. Because as grateful as we are for the expertise of people like Nurserino, there's a lot of speculation about elements of Victoria 2, even more among longtime players, and it's a very intricate game, so that's why we're working on this kind of I guess lab would be the better term for it, because it's really to run experimentations on how the game. Yeah, forensic lab to do this. But yeah, so that's what I've been working on. Do you want me to post the GitHub repo for that documentation?
You can just post that in the YouTube chat if you'd like.
Yeah, that's what.
This is impromptu. I'd much rather you get your whole own section within the stream so it's all properly covered, so that we can really. But
yeah,
it's great to have the info in anyway. I'm always glad to hear more great stuff about stuff that's being done on the project.
Sure. I'll go ahead, because it's in its very early stages, and I don't really have documentation for people to contribute. So I'd actually prefer if we had, since this was impromptu, I'm technically on the clock right now, but
no worries.
Don't tell anyone. But yeah, it's great to be on the team, and I'm liking the work so far.
And just like with everyone else in the team, thank you very much for being here and doing this.
Got it. Yeah, thanks.
Actually, it's a pleasure.
So I guess we just get the next question where we left off here, and scrolling up here. Where can we find a list of requirements? Publicizing the requirements was something that has been mentioned before. Or
yeah,
not?
It's been mentioned, and technically the list is public, but I'm not really willing to share links to them around, and I would discourage anyone from sharing the links around. The reason why isn't that we're trying to hide away what's been done or be secretive about it. It's just that we don't want people speculating or commenting on requirements in process. That's basically it. It's like I don't want the public necessarily to see the sausage making, which is an unpleasant, messy, unclean kind of business, because it can give people the wrong impression of how the project is running. So if you saw, for instance, how someone actually wrote code, especially if they wrote code that got rewritten because it was bad, I wouldn't want that to be taken out of context. And it's the same thing with requirements, because requirements are never perfect. There are mistakes made at times as well. So it's generally, I think, for the best for the public not to observe them. Especially
the real emails themselves, though.
I mean, dev cycle stuff, I'm happy to see shared out, but the master sort of sheets, I don't want shared out. I mean, I think the worst thing we get is like, and we had this since like day one of the project. You get people who are not qualified to talk about these projects or how these projects run, commenting as if they know better or that they've got it figured out. You do get a lot of that Dunning-Kruger style effect of people. So you'll get someone who's done a bit of software engineering thinking that they know everything about software. And it's like, you get people who've got like a couple of years experience thinking they're on par with people who've literally been doing it more than a decade. You know, and the manner and the nature to which you approach how software is run and built differs extremely greatly depending on the number of years experience you have in industry, particularly when you move up seniority levels. You go away from being a coder who wants to quickly assemble solutions and write a couple of lines of code to someone who has to keep in mind the architectural constraints of using certain technologies together. And that colors your entire level of thinking. And it's the same thing with the requirements as well. You know, it's just for the best that we don't have people on there.
You are the boss of requirements.
Yeah,
that is the decision. I mean,
I'm happy to have the dev cycle sheets shared out. So every time we do a dev cycle, we will have a list of requirements that are being developed, and I'm happy for that to be public and shared around.
And that's actually
show what we're actually working on. That'll be a lot more interesting for you to view as well. So if it's the next question, if you want to see what we're working on in a particular dev cycle, and you have the dev cycle requirements, there we are. Great question I was just in the chat though. Will we ever see post-fact requirements? So if you mean like when the project comes to a close, will we ever post our full requirement sheets? I mean, I'm certainly going to do that 100%. I would like all of our documentation, everything about the project, to be posted publicly. Not necessarily.
Oh yeah, I think it's a great case study of this open source management.
Unseal the archives.
Yeah, as it were. And I think I'm describing some of the process we put into this, particularly the requirements management, because at the end of the day, what's the consequence of that? Well, people learn how to use requirements and software a bit better, so people write better software. I mean,
yeah. Most of the map stuff I wrote, I'd also done the requirements for. So I'd thought a lot about how to write the map code already, and it all fit together very well.
Yeah, imagine designing and planning your work before putting, your fingers on the keyboard and writing out code. Because when you're in university, in particular, you almost have the demand to just write code, just get practice in, and that's great mentality to have. Is just write code. But when you approach bigger projects in a more professional manner, you have to slow down, and it's horrible because even when you get like older and you're more experienced with these things, you still want to write. You still want to just flow the code out your fingers and get stuff done. But you have to constrain yourself. You've got to slow down and plan it out. Because when you plan it out, you save yourself a lot of time, a lot of energy wasting otherwise. I don't know if there's anything we didn't cover with that question, Spudgun, that you didn't kind of read out, but I think that's just it, right?
Do you want to know what the question was? What is a dev cycle?
Fucking hell. All right. Sorry, I shouldn't swear.
You don't have to go too in-depth, just over...
All right. A dev cycle, a development cycle, is effectively an iteration of software writing or making. So you get given a list of requirements at the start of a dev cycle. This is just a list. Imagine a big list of do this, do this, do this, over and over again. And it's just a developer coming along and picking out the individual requirements to do as a task, and then doing that and completing that work, and then just marking it off as done. So it's a bit like having a to-do list that you just mark as done as you build code. And once we have enough of the requirements done, we'll call that a dev cycle sort of done. We don't really have a formal process for what constitutes the end of a dev cycle. We just basically conclude that, it's about time to bring it to a close. We got the majority of requirements that we wanted to do done. We'll keep the ones that haven't been done on for the next dev cycle anyway, and we'll just add on more. Keep people interested in it.
So just to quickly summarize that, by the way, a dev cycle is basically we'll write requirements in a big master copy, and then we'll look at the requirements in there. All the ones which are ready to be implemented go into a separate list called the dev cycle.
That about answers what a dev cycle is. Very broad question, very Because these are terms that lay people out, who don't know game development or development won't know, and it's good to get that overview. So I'm looking through the rest of these questions. A lot of these questions have probably already been answered by what we've talked about. So just anything here. Another question about how to contribute, which we've gone over. There's plenty of ways. Just ask in Discord. What are you thinking about rights of use? Sorry.
I was just going to mention that somebody in the chat had asked again, hello, why did they tell you to drop the 2? Even though we talked about that earlier, might be good to just quickly recap.
They said similarity to the trademark of Victoria 2.
And whether or not that's true, whether or not that's technically legally true or false, we're more than happy to just accept, because it's no skin off our, no weight off our back, or whatever the saying goes. Just fine.
Yeah.
No skin off our teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No 2 off our OpenVic 2. It's called OpenVic now, yeah. It's called OpenVic. No skin off our nose.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
I've never heard that. It's just one of those moments where
you're confused there with by the skin of your teeth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyways, are there any further questions?
Is there not something like
chats or anything?
There's a couple. Is no something off my back or no? I'm sorry, I need to get the bottom of this.
No weight off my back.
Something like that. I wanted to. Someone asked if there's a John Mayan nation, and I assume so. We're trying to re-implement. Unless there's like a good reason, like a quality of life reason not to implement something. We're implementing everything in the base game into OpenVic. So although John Mayan is an Easter egg and practically, I guess you could say, serves no purpose other than to be funny, we will still be implementing that along with potentially other things that not everyone thinks is like serious or
it'll be very easy to add Easter eggs.
I don't think there's any like Among Us event in Vic 2, right?
Oh no. But what do you mean John Mayan doesn't serve a purpose? It's like 50% of the Victoria 2 Reddit's posts.
To clarify Yanmei and stuff, I have already put in the requirements to get the Polar Bear General and Admiral icons into the game. So I hope that alleviates any concerns there. By the way, if you want to draw out our icons for the Polar Bear General or Admiral, you're more than welcome to join the team and draw those icons out for us. It's an extra bit of pixel art that's available to do. And I can't believe no one's jumped to that.
Say the reverse point of that is that I think it's understood among the team that we don't want to add silly things like inside jokes into the game.
Or if we do, they'll be locked behind a game rule, like a fantasy events game rule.
Yeah. I think the most we've talked about is potentially that would kind of interfere with the seriousness of the game is potentially like special general names for people who are big in the community. But other than that, no.
I think we should always have like the sort of memes and insider jokes always as an optional feature that you don't necessarily need to have in the game. Like we're very happy to have the idea of something akin to the way Crusader Kings, I think particularly Crusader Kings 2 have it, where you have an options menu when you start the game where you can turn on or off many sort of meme style things like fantasy events in Crusader Kings 2 is a prominent example of that. You can turn off stuff like supernatural stuff from occurring.
Immortality.
Yeah. Sunset Invasion also.
Yeah, all those things.
Some good choice of words there because there's some options in that game that wouldn't sound good in that context that you can disable them. But I'm sure we all know.
But one other thing to mention is anyway, there will be both our own new assets, which include events and decisions that people have submitted to us, but there will also always be compatibility modes. So if you want John Mayan exactly as it is in Base Vic 2, you will be able to do that.
Speaking of the crowdsourcing stuff, that stuff is still open. Catalyst isn't here to talk about it, but once again, if you want to submit events, LARP, lore, decisions, achievements, I think, hasn't it been work done on finalizing achievements already, though? I don't know. But you can still go to the community server and submit your stuff if you have ideas, if you think any region in the world is lacking in flavour. That's all still there.
With events and decisions in particular, we've had a bit less interest than with achievements. And I guess that's probably because there's less sort of an achievement, you've defined it and it's done. Whereas events, I guess you want to see it actually pop up in the game and stuff like that. So in Dev Cycle 3, we haven't yet got the requirements down for this, but I would be interested in making a basic form of an event. It's like the UI for it that pops up. We wouldn't yet be able to do like conditions, triggers, and effects completely properly in this dev cycle, but we haven't forgot about all of these events and decision submissions, and they'll be very useful for testing our system.
Now we have a question.
Getting stuff like mean time to happen working is always going to be important.
Let's wrap up soon, though. Conscious of time, and maybe a couple more questions. Rights of use. Someone asked about that. What's that?
What does that even mean?
Oh, I think they mean the license.
It's GPL3.
Referring to the license? Yeah, GPL3.
That should cover it. GPL3. There you go.
Yeah, look it up. If you don't know, Google it. We're not explaining GPL3.
Yeah. Do pretty much
if,
whatever.
If you want to know what a dev cycle is, Google it.
Fuck's sake. You already explained that
one. What events, since this person donated, what languages do events need to be written in? I don't think we I think we haven't made it so that you actually have to give a TXT file like you would have in a mod. Yeah. You just need to describe the event, and then we'll figure out how to implement it.
So some people have included text, but yeah, ideally submit events in English. You can also submit them in other languages, but always have an English copy just for us to be able to read, so that we know what's actually in it.
Oh, I just realized, that it makes more sense if they meant natural language, not like the paradox format.
They need to be written.
English, yeah. So we take event ideas and submissions in the community Discord right now. A subset of the events will end up in the game, but it will be pretty much team discretion what goes in automatically. And again, as we said just now about options and having the optional ability to have stuff in or not, there will be obviously a distinction between the, I suppose, the most clean version of the game, and then there will also be like the one with all the bonus events and extra stuff as well, the flavor and additional things sort of thrown in onto that. All the
I don't believe event submissions need to be written in a coding language or in mod.
They just need to be described clearly.
Because that'll be done by the team. You provide the substance, the team will put it in the right format.
Yeah, if you look at the submissions channels,
I did actually mean server. Code. So in terms of the code, we've yet to actually put together the syntax that would write that. So we will. I think the current idea is that we'll support the old style that Paradox have used for their events, but we will also support a new style which we've yet to assemble, which will be a bit cleaner and a bit more flexible.
If you want to submit events, though, I'd advise you to write them in sort of natural-looking English instead of writing them. Don't submit Vic2 events like in the actual Vic2 format, since we're not going to be all the events which we add ourselves as our new original custom assets are going to be in a new original format. So yeah, the any submissions, events, decisions, or achievements, just explain what's happening in text. Look at other examples in the channels to see how other people did it. We do not need any kind of we don't need anything which we can copy and paste into the mod folder and have working straight away.
Right. So, will you make the loader look better and have playsets?
Well, I do not believe that we're going to have a launcher, if that's what you mean. But
we would much rather have it that you could, from within the game, go similar to how RimWorld works, where you can go in and change the mods you want to use, and then it will reload without having to close and reopen the game.
Or Factorium.
It's going to be
Factorium's always been my example.
It's going to be like Victoria 2, CK2, rather than newer Paradox style of having a launcher. Simple as. Right. Just the way Victoria 2, basically. Yeah, there's with it working on both times 86 and ARM, will you ensure that they are deterministic so people can multiplayer between them?
Yes. So we're putting a big amount of effort into determinism, and we will have our own custom fixed point library. We will not be using floating point numbers for any of the simulation stuff. This is a big concern for us. Brick, you have a ARM Mac, don't you?
I actually
Yes, I do.
I wanted to comment. This is actually not a deviation, at least from the save file structure. It seems that Victoria 2 actually doesn't use floating points.
Yeah, no, I think it's something like 4 or 5 decimal places fixed points.
Yeah. So no, yeah,
Although that doesn't actually tell you what they use internally, because they could just be truncating them when they print them.
Yeah, of course, but I mean, I think it's I'm just saying that as like, at least in that specific case, it seems that they're already using.
Well, actually, no, they wouldn't. Yeah, they wouldn't truncate them when they print. Yeah, if they weren't using fixed point, oosing would be 10 times worse. Like, I know it's hard to imagine, but oosing would be worse if they weren't already using fixed point. So I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
All right. So, would you be willing, in reference to holes in the economy, would you be willing to make them an optional rule? And
No.
Well, I think it would. So you would, so a user would definitely be able to, especially if they can do some C++ modding, change how the economy works and fix some of these holes. And so we're not going to make it that these holes are completely unavoidable, but we're not going to be putting so much effort into balancing the game around these non-faithful versions.
Yeah, we're not going to waste time putting in problems. You know, we're not going to deliberately architect problems in the game. The holes in the economy are recognized as problems, right?
there's a line between what is a bug that we've talked about that we're not going to have, and there's also things that are quirks of the Victoria 2 economy, such as duplicating goods and sphere. Now, what about those?
A good example of this is that when you invest in a project that your capitalists are creating, it won't fully purchase a product, because the way Victoria 2 processes price is that the price will change by the time the purchases are made. So you'll have like $300 left to invest because the price of iron or whatever went up. So for things like, I think for things like that are like very clearly annoying and kind of hard to replicate intentionally, those might be so-called patched out. But for things like quirks, like I don't know, we had a discussion. I don't know if the canned foods to take thing is real, but stuff like that's gonna still be in the game.
An example of the hole you just described with like investment with capitalists, you can get around that by just simply having the capitalists buy a portion of the goods at the time, every time that money is injected. So just, sidestepping things like that with a little bit more effort in terms of the code. And you know, from a programmer's perspective, looking at these things, that Paradox didn't have that issue didn't get rid of that issue that's in there, because they didn't have enough time. So they didn't intentionally put it there, but you just know they didn't get around to fixing it because they never had the time to do so.
All right. Well, basically, there's some more questions that were done throughout the stream, but I think there's things that we've already covered, or perhaps are too specific about some little features that may or may not be in the scope and stuff. And basically, there's just whatever's in the chat right now. If you want to finish up, just answer. Will it work on
any
console?
Events for the ascent of a new polar bear king? No. No.
Console.
You're
guys.
welcome to make one. Will it be on console? We have no plans to put it on console. Maybe if we release it, we could then port it. But,
There's no reason why you couldn't port it to console, since it's an open source project, but we're not going to do that work for you.
Yeah, at this point,
And
just
also,
feel free to
I want to
sideload
play
it.
Victoria with a controller.
If you can plug your keyboard and mouse into a console, then sure, that sounds great. But
90% of the questions we're going to get asked are going to be, if you're willing to do the work to do that, you can do anything you want. You can do anything. You can turn Victoria into your ERP game if you like, as has been suggested in this chat just now and many times in the past.
If you're smart,
if you're willing to do the work and make stuff, yes, you can create what you want.
I don't think people who want to make sex mods for every game are willing to put in work in general.
Oh, people will do it just for the memes of it. I assure you.
I guess.
You know. And there is a question that often gets asked, which is a bit more controversial, which is, are we going to do population control, genocide, and so on? And no, we are not going to support that. There will be ways in which people can mechanically do that by modding the game or adjusting the source code, but we are not going to support as a feature the ability to do those things for obvious reasons. And we disavow any attempts to do that for obvious reasons.
And they're already
I do want
modded
to ask about. So I guess I'm now asking. So I think correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, but I think regarding things that I guess for lack of a better term seem problematic in Vic 2, for example, the uncivilized and civilized nation. I believe we're still keeping that, and not changing it to like the uncentralized, decent.
No, that's retarded. No, we're not doing that. The point I'm making is we're not going to make a genocide simulator that will be bait for every 2-bit journalist to come along and slate the entire project. You know, so obvious stuff like committing genocide, which is not in Victoria 2, by the way. We're not going to do that. We may have references to genocides that occur. So, for example, something like the Armenian genocide, you know, or the Trail of Tears.
We've just lost our Turkish audience there.
Well, I'm just saying we are going to make reference to things if it's in the base game, but generally speaking, we're not going to, you know, encourage players at all to just cull population and live out their, you know, effectively their neo-Nazi plans to make a Gross Germania, you know, and have a pure Reich, which is what many people wish to do.
Well,
and I know a
people will make
stuff.
Gross Deutschlands on the map,
Gross
but
Deutschland.
They won't do the G. They won't put the G word on everyone else. They'll make their big maps, but they won't. But these things are already in mods, and you can't control
it
that.
is more likely that the project will shut down due to association with that stuff than it is being shut down by Paradox. And Paradox would be more likely inclined to take action against us if we explicitly did those things. And yes, Trail of Tears is already a base Vic event, which is why I mention it in particular. The point being is that we are not going to explicitly encourage these things, and we will, for obvious reasons such as journalists. Yes, unfortunately, we can't conflate those two topics together. But but yeah, we can't do these things in a sincere fashion, even a semi-respectful way. Unfortunately, we can't do it due to the nature of life, basically, how things work out. It's a very easy way to attack this project, and we are going to have people mod it and change the source code.
We've got one in the chat. We've got one in the chat right now. Let's name and shame him. Andrew. Andrew is making broad generalizations.
That Spudgun server is full of racist and homophobic.
Broad generalizations about people he's never
all
met.
The people who use that server is racist and homophobic.
5,000. Right? You just insulted 5,000 people.
I'm included amongst those people as well, so I must be racist and homophobic.
I agree with everything Joe said.
In a guilt by association tactic, and this is what I'm worried about with a project like this: is that we will have negative elements in the community create mods that will do pretty bad, abhorrent things. And then we will be dealt with in a guilt by association fashion. So, we'll create OpenVic. Someone will make some kind of genocide thing by modding it, and then we will get touted as if we're like the genocide game. And it's like, for God's sake. Well, Paradox have managed to avoid that controversy so far, even though there are mods that can do that. And I'm sure we can do the same. And the way Paradox has avoided that in a sensible fashion has been to disavow those kinds of things entirely. Right, moving on. How do you resolve disagreements, conflicts in the team? Mostly just argue about things until we get tired, and then we come to some kind of compromise after that. But generally speaking, we have a lot of discussion. We've talked about pretty much every aspect of the project at this point. At some point, I think most of the major conflicts we've had inside the team are resolved and are over. So it's not a big deal anymore, to be honest. One thing I saw further up, will multiplayer still require port forward in. We will help players out a bit in the netcode, but we're not. Maybe it depends on you. This is a question that's like I don't know what your networking setup looks like, so it's a bit difficult for me to say. By default, you shouldn't require port forward in, but depending on your equipment, you might. Okay. Any special features of the in-game chat? No idea. Probably, maybe.
Well, the in-game chat is planned to be kind of upgraded from normal Victor, so it's actually a box. It's like a chat box, right? That's already kind of planned, right?
I mean, if it's not much effort, sure.
One thing I was just going to quickly mention, in terms of how we resolve disagreements, we also have various non-team member consultants, mostly high-profile modders on our dev server who contribute and give us advice.
Right, so we're wrapping up, pretty much done here.
I was just and if it comes down to it, Catalyst will just 1984 people or hold it to a vote.
And I mean, we're all professional. We're all professional.
But
like, there's not like personal shouting matches. Like, there's no like massive.
We did have the politics channel banned recently though because of me and Spartan arguing in there.
This is a difference between the community server and the development server, though.
It's very true. Yeah.
Community server has no more politics. It's gone.
We had the most tepid argument as well. It was mostly me just saying to Spartan, here is how you could better use rhetoric to advance your arguments. And apparently that was too much. And so the channel got nuked because of that. Nothing actually controversial about politics.
Just to mention, although the community server did have politics and now doesn't, the dev server has never had politics. It is completely absent of that kind of stuff.
And the reason why, of course, is we don't want team members arguing with each other about silly political things. And this is a project's principle or policy, if you will. We don't care about politics. It's not relevant to Victoria. It's not. I mean,
procrastination.
When I say it's not relevant to Victoria, of course, I mean the politics in game will be well represented, but our political beliefs are not representative to the game, and they're not representative to the era. The closest. So what I will typically get asked is like all the bullshit corporate stuff. So it's like, are we going to figure out like how we're going to do diversity and inclusion? Well, no, because that's political and that's not part of the game. Are we also going to be hostile and try to exclude people? Well, no, there's nothing to do with it. We want to avoid people trying to shoehorn in their political ideology into this realm. It's very much a case of, if you're working in the team, we care about your code and how well you can develop and what you can do. If you have political beliefs, that's nice, but we don't care in the team. It is not relevant, and your political views will have no bearing on the actual project.
The one thing which we do care about, though, is anybody being like nasty and going after people on the team in any way is a instant ban. Unacceptable, 100% unacceptable.
It doesn't matter what the nature of criticism or abuse or insults are towards people in the team. If people are insulting or attacking people in the team, it's an us and them situation. Like, obviously we'll go into like ban anyone who's being harassing to our team members. Like, it literally doesn't matter what angle you're coming from. It doesn't even matter to a degree if your criticism is somewhat legitimate. It's a case of, we have to side with our team members and present a united front, as every group does.
That's not to say that people can't send feedback. Just if you're obviously being a dick and harassing someone, you'll get banned.
Yeah, if you do it in an insulting manner that's not constructive, you'll probably get banned because you're being insulting. It's not because you have criticism. If you have constructive criticism of like team members messing up or causing issues or making problems, we were happy to. We'd love to hear about that, but that's just honestly, how it goes.
Anybody like downloading, we were talking about playtesting earlier, but messing around with the menus, if there's anything you can find that you remotely think could be a bug or could be an issue, or even if you just personally would like it a different way, feel free to ping us on the community server. We will get to you. It's very, very useful to have this input because, I mean, already a guy who's recently been helping us with that has already picked out so many little things about the UI that we hadn't sort of really tested in a while.
All right, just a last couple of notes here. I agree with everything the gentlemen here have just said. Completely agree with Joe and Hop and everyone. The team members are very much, we're we're always about, you know, protecting them and stuff from abuse, get that shit away. And on the same token, within the team, don't discuss politics at all, and everyone's a welcome, depending on, doesn't matter who they are. If they can do something to contribute, that's great, and they're always welcome. And if you get banned or something from the community Discord, you're always welcome to appeal. If you think you have any constructive, if you're always constructive in your tone and kind, you can always appeal any decision we make as well. All of that applies, and everything's fine. And there's no politics in the community server, that's gone. There's no more
Well, guys,
questions,
I'm going to have
so.
to go grab gas, so I will be seeing you guys. It's been a very productive discussion, I think. And thank you, all of you guys, for watching. And keep looking at the website. I am working on improvements and stuff. So I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
BrickPie. Thanks
Same
so much for
me.
being here.
Alright, thank you.
And Bike, are you heading off as well? Thank you. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to you for being here on the stream and taking the time in general for the project. You're much appreciated by the community and by me.
Well, thanks for all who actually still watch the stream, because goddamn, yeah, you've been with us the long haul. So
Yeah.
we'll get you a game
so
eventually.
Sorry for the abrupt entrance.
Oh,
but,
no worries.
yeah.
No worries.
It's great to
Stick
hear.
with
No,
us. We'll get you a game eventually. Just give us a couple of years of time. Christ, I'm so
Got it.
exhausted. I've done a 10-hour day at work already.
Alright, see you.
all right. Thanks so much, Joe. And
Right.
thanks there.
All right, are
Take
you
care.
good? Yeah. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much. I will just say a little goodbye to the chat here. You know, I don't know what happened towards the end of it there in terms of the chat. Some weird questions and weird people came in. I banned people, and I do, because we don't want abuse and that in the chat. But if you do want to genuinely appeal, if you think we made a bad decision, just reach out to me. If you think you can be constructive and actually perform some kind of coherent sentence instead of just piling nonsense. Always willing to listen. If you have a different point of view, always welcome to hear from you. But that was a great stream. So many constructive pieces of information and general updates on the project and great news about it. Yeah, it's all going well. Development's going well. Dev Cycle 3 is coming, and I appreciate everyone for watching. It's been a great time as always on these discussion streams. And thank you very much for the people who gave the super chats, which are for this channel. Everyone knows that, and as well as gifting memberships. So yeah, and the project itself takes no money. Streaming is my job, and if I'm streaming, people can give super chats, and that's that. When's the next Bavaria series video? That's probably coming on Friday. Okay, I said it. And there's Honk, by the way. He's a YouTuber as well. Check out his Victoria 2 videos. Thank you very much, Warlord or Jay in the chat, for taking note of all the questions and doing the timestamps as well. That's really appreciated. Thank you so much for doing that. As well as the other YouTube mods for keeping the chat clean. Thank you very much to you as well. And all the viewers. That's it. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.